Okay, so welcome everybody to the nutrition seminar that I did on Saturday, and I'm choosing to re-record it for you guys so it's something you guys can refer back to. So, it took me a minute to make this. Not that it took me a long time to put it together, just really knowing that I had to do this presentation last Saturday. I waited almost till like a few nights before to really begin actually working on it. And the reason being is because, when you have to put a presentation like this together, I remember thinking to myself, what is it that I need to communicate to these people? And the biggest thing, the reason why it took me a while is simply because there was just so much information. There's just a lot. When it comes to nutrition, there's so much information, and that is why I think a lot of people are confused. So I had to really try and distill it down to one big takeaway that I wanted you to take from this. And what that was is just exactly as I titled it, eat real food. Just eat real food. And I'm not even gonna lie to you, like when I was making this presentation, I really just wanted to put a picture of real food on the screen, just just say, just do this, eat real food. And then that was it. Because that's really the biggest thing that I've noticed. If you look at all the different kind of diets out there, paleo, keto, intermittent fasting, just different techniques and diet schemes and tactics and patterns. What you find, the biggest thing that you find, honestly, and this is just a question I asked myself was, what is the common denominator? What is the common denominator when you're looking at each one? What is it that they all have their different varying tactics, but what is something that's universal? And the biggest thing that I found is eat real food. Just simply eat food that is real. Eat food that came from the earth. Eat food that God made. Like, before you start trying to do all the other tactics and things like that, just start there, right? Start there and make that a habit before you move on to trying different techniques and things like that. Like, just start with eating real food. And I promise you that's half the battle right there. It's just, are you eating real food? Right? So, without further ado, we're just going to continue into the presentation. So, going into the first thing I want to talk about is tell you a little bit about me, and in essence, what got me into this. Why do I do this? Um, my name is Peter. I'm a personal trainer and nutrition coach, and I am the new metabolic specialist over at Lifetime Lake Houston. And I've always played sports my entire life. Soccer. I was born in London, so obviously over there, football, as we call it, is the biggest sport. And then I also lived in Nigeria, where football is also the biggest sport, soccer to you. And that's just, I never stopped playing even when I moved here. And then after that, after school, I began working out. And working out was just something I did, with friends. And it wasn't until I got older, and I was in college and, bouncing around from major to major and not really knowing what I wanted to do. But eventually what I knew was I enjoyed science classes, and my favorite class was anatomy and physiology. And that's when I started to learn a lot more about the body, and I just thought it was fascinating. I did want to go the doctor route, but I just didn't like school that much. So I settled on exercise science, but still didn't know what I really wanted to do. But I did an internship. A final semester, I had to do an internship, and what I did was I chose to do it at a cardiopulmonary rehab facility. I can't remember why I chose that, but that was the decision that I made. And I worked as an exercise intern. And a cardiopulmonary rehab facility, for those of you guys who don't know, it's in essence anyone who possibly had heart or lung issues or operations, and will now have to go through the process of being rehabilitated at at a hospital after their surgery. And I remember seeing these people when they came in and when they walked into the place. Well, walking is an overstatement. They could barely walk. They had to be obviously wheeled in um, a wheelchair, and just walking from, say, that wall back there to here would have almost killed them. We had to have a seat next to them. But in essence, that was the role. As an exercise intern, my job was to rehabilitate them to the point where they could do so much more. And that was the first time that I ever saw what it looked like to be unhealthy. That's when the first time I ever saw what it looked like to be um, unfit. Like I mean, I'd seen unfit people, but just seeing that that's what it got to, and it's not even just that. That's was the first time I saw people not being healthy, not being unfit. It was me actually seeing people who are older, in their 60s, 50s, 60s, 70s, and seeing what it looks like when, you know, um, from not taking care of yourself, your body fails you. And it was eye opening for me. It was also kind of scary. And, I had taken being fit for granted, playing sports, exercising. It was just something I did. But I didn't understand the healing effects of it until I started to see, through working with these people, how they started to return back to regular fitness. And, I would also see days that they would come in, they'll have bruises on their face. And that would always uh, it would always kind of freak me out, because I was like, and I was curious about it, and I would start asking them questions. Hey, what is with the why do you have bruises on your face? And I remember them saying to me, I fell, and this was the common reason they fell. And when from seeing that again, it was very eye opening, because I didn't realize how much I had taken this for granted. So, after that, I wanted to continue doing work like that, because it was very gratifying seeing people get better and knowing that you did it. And I didn't even have to become a doctor to help heal people. That was what I enjoyed about it. And I remember choosing what I was going to do, and that's where I settled on personal training. And working as a personal trainer for 15 years. And over the course of my time there, that's also when I started to pay a lot of attention to my health, like for real. Like it wasn't just working out because that's what I did. I actually started to take it seriously. I started to see, am I healthy? I started to make better decisions. I started, you know, changing the way I ate, because the way I would eat, it was just, I remember when I would leave work, even this is even when working as a trainer, I would eat just white rice and baked chicken. That was it. Like every day. I would just eat the same thing every day, because it was easy to make and it was familiar. I didn't know anything about food. But then through working as a trainer, obviously, when you learn that the nutrition is the most important piece, and that's what a lot of people struggle with, I started to take mine much more seriously. And that's when I began to talk, to start changing my diet, and I would talk more about food, and I also became a nutritionist. I got certified as a nutritionist, and that was my intro to um, learning about nutrition. And for me, I've always tried to simplify it for myself. Ultimately, there's so much information out there. I'm always looking for the easiest thing. I'm always looking for the smallest thing that I need to pay attention to in order for me to be able to do this consistently. I have to, for my mind, I have to break it down to what is the simplest thing I can do here, instead of me having to worry about all this stuff. How do I break it down? And that was, again, ultimately brought me to the just eat real food, right? But when it comes to fitness and health overall, I came up, there are 5 pillars, and these 5 pillars ultimately are for anyone who wants to be healthy and fit, you have to optimize these 5 pillars in the most effective way, the most efficient way possible. The first one is to breathe, move, hydrate, nourish, and recover, right? In no particular order, but I will say breathe is the first and the most important one when it comes to being healthy. No matter what issues you have, whatever recommendations that the doctor or nutrition dietitian, whoever it is, whatever recommendations they're going to give you, ultimately comes under one of these categories. One, if not all. Breathe, move, hydrate, nourish, and recover. All right. You do these things on a consistent basis in the most optimal way possible, you will be a healthy person, right? So, moving on, one of the reasons that I feel that a lot of people struggle with um, making the right decisions when it pertains to their health, one of the reasons why I think a lot of people struggle with that is I think it's because most people do not understand how their bodies work. And I think that's the real struggle. A lot of people don't understand how their machine works. And if you don't understand how it works, how can you make the best decision when it comes to taking care of it, when you don't understand what it actually needs? You know, you don't have to understand it in the most intricate way possible, but you have to just understand some of the basic things it needs. And from my understanding, and this is what my hypothesis is, that when people understand how their bodies work, they make better decisions towards feeling it, feeding it, or nourishing it. They make better decisions that way. So this is how I want to introduce to you the body in a way that you just understand these basic fundamentals, just the basics, right? So when we talk about the body, this is something we learn. I remember I learned in human anatomy and physiology, and it stuck. And even when I would do my personal training certs, there were some, I would learn this as well. But I think this is very important to know. And this is something a lot of people don't understand. And that's another thing that I learned from working as a trainer, is when I would talk to people, I realized that things that were just so common sense to me were not to them, because they don't know how the body works. And because I have a greater understanding of how the body works, these things were a little bit more intuitive. So what I wanted to talk to you about first, starting off, is the hierarchy of the body, right? So I want you guys to understand it, and I'm going to do my best to explain it in a way that makes sense, so that going forward you're not lost on anything, right? So when I say the hierarchy of the body, in essence, we're just looking at the body in different levels. So what it means is this: the very first level we're going to look at is the organism, right? That's you. Just you. When you're looking in the mirror, this is what you see. This is the level that you are. But if we were to zoom into your body and now separate your body, what you will notice is your body is made up of different systems, right? And you've heard them before: the nervous system, the skeletal system, that's your bones. Your nervous system is your brain and your nerves. Your skeletal system, those are your bones. Your muscular system, those are your muscles. Your circulatory system, that's your heart and all your blood vessels throughout the body. Your respiratory system, that's your nose, your trachea, your lungs. Your reproductive system, that's your, for men, that's your testicles, your penis, your woman, your vagina, your ovaries. So in essence, your body is broken up into different systems, right? So what I'm going to focus on one system. I'm just going to pull one system out of those, and just understand that these principles that I'm going to speak of, all the other systems share that. So the next system is, the one we're going to talk about, is your digestive system. And that's kind of what you see here in the image, where it's the person's mouth, their throat, all the way down to their stomach. I'm pointing at this thing like you guys can see what I'm pointing at. Hold on, give me 1 second. Let's try this. Okay, so this is right here. This is the digestive system, and it starts at your mouth all the way down to your throat, to the stomach, And you can see this is the liver right here, and these are the intestines. You have the small intestine and then the large intestine that goes all the way around until it goes boom to your anus and out. That's just one system, right? And that system is made up of organs, different organs, right? That organ right here that we're picking on is the liver. We could have chosen the stomach, could have chosen the intestines, but I'm choosing the liver, right? So that's just one organ. You have a bunch of organs, and when all those organs come together, they make up a system, right? And then from the liver, so from the liver right here, if we were to zoom into, like, say, the surface of the liver, like the wall of the liver, right? You would see it's made of what we call tissue. And just think, when I say tissue, just think about toilet paper, right? You notice how the toilet paper is made up of, like, just that one block that is attached to another sheet, that's attached to another sheet, that's attached to another sheet, and that's the whole roll. Exactly like that, tissue, right? And imagine each one individual block is what we call a cell. And as you can see, cells right here. So when those cells all come together, they make tissue. And when all those tissue come together, they make an organ. And when all these organs come together, they make a system. And then when all these systems come together, they make the organism or the body, right? So the cell is primarily where we're going to spend a lot of time, because I want you to understand this. And when I talk about cells, you have cells in your body. They're like little tiny microscopic, they're tiny microscopic people, right? They're small. And you have trillions of them. And you have different kinds of cells that when they come together, they make up different kinds of tissues, which make up different kinds of organs, which make up different kinds of systems, and those systems make up your body, right? Now, when I say these cells are like little people, right here, you can look inside the cells and they have organs inside them, right? They're made up of their own organs. And it's those organs that, they're called organelles, really. All the food that you eat, the reason why your body has to break it down is so that the cells can now consume it. It's like your cells are so tiny, right? That how can you feed a piece of chicken to a tiny ass cell? You can't. So your body has to break it down into little microscopic parts, right? Which you can see right here is what our molecules, all the food that you eat are broken down into molecules. And that's when this body can actually absorb it. The cells can absorb it and use all those molecules for what they need to do, which is typically build stuff. That's what but we're going to go into all of that. So think of it like this, right? You have, I'm sorry, again, I'm so used to pointing, but anyway, this is a cell right here, and it is made up of organs, right? But this is a cell. A bunch of cells, here we go. This is the cell. This is a cell. Inside the cell, you see these are organs right here. These are called organelles. It just means small organs. And this is the cell. And when you look at the cell, when you bring a whole bunch of cells together, you make tissue. And you bring a whole bunch of tissue together, you make an organ. And you bring a whole bunch of organs together, you make a system, an organ system. And when you bring a whole bunch of organ systems together, then you have the body. Okay? So, moving on. So now, here's what's so interesting as well. You have different kinds of cells in the body, right? There are different kinds of cells. And the way I look at these cells, remember I told you these cells are like little tiny people, right? That live in your body. So I look at all these different cells that you can see, they all look different. They're like different cultures. They're like different ethnicities, different ethnic groups, different races. The way the planet has different groups of people who look different, act different, have different culture, the cells are the same way. There's a whole bunch of different things, different cells, and they all act differently, but they all work together to make up the body, for the good of the body. So right here, you have a myocyte. It's a muscle cell. This is what a muscle cell looks like. Over here, we have a neuron, a nerve cell. This is what the cells that, in essence, communicate and feel and exchange information look like in your body. Right here, this is a sperm cell, right? We all know what sperm does. Here we have a melanocyte. Melanocyte, these are the cells that produce melanin, right? This is what it looks like. Over here, we have a red blood cell. Again, trillions of them. This is what they tend to look like. Here, this is an adipocyte. An adipocyte is just a fat cell. So in essence, this is what you guys are all working to lose. Fat cells right here, right? You're trying to, if these cells are people, you're trying to, I'm going to use this term. You're trying to genocide these people. You're trying to genocide this group, the fat cells. But I wouldn't necessarily say genocide them, because you don't want to eradicate them completely. You want to reduce their numbers. You want to lower their population, right? Now, these are just 6. This is just 6 different cells, but there are hundreds of different kinds of cells, if not thousands, but there's a lot. I just showed you 6 of them, right? So again, remember, each of these cells come together, they make tissue. Each of those cells come together, each of the tissue comes together and makes an organ. All the organs come together and makes an organ system, and then the organ system becomes the organism, which is your body, right? So all these cells are what you are feeding when you consume food. When you nourish yourself, these are all the cells that are getting the food. All the food is broken down, right? Is broken down so that they can consume what they need to consume. All these cells are consuming the food that you eat. Now, interestingly enough, this is the cell that the remnants of what you eat, the ones that all these don't use, they get. So the issue is a lot of us are overeating, right? So they're all getting satiated to an extent, but this one is not. It's not getting, this one is now getting the overflow, right? And there's a lot of overflow. That's why there's the population here. And it sometimes it's not even like all these cells are getting fed, right? Because again, depending on the quality of the food that you're eating, a lot of these cells might just reject the food. Insulin resistance. All these cells are not taking in any of the food. So this one has to kind of sweep up and convert all of that excess into fat, right? So the very first nutrient that your body needs, right? This is the very first way in which your body takes in some kind of substance that it needs to survive. And that is breathing. Breathing is the most important nutrient that you ever get, right? So before we even go into it, I want to do an exercise with you guys. Some of you guys I've done this with before, but a lot of you guys, this will be the first time. So what we're going to do is you're going to, just wherever you are, whether you're standing, sitting, I just want you to sit in a slouch position, right? Just slouch, just completely just relax, just drop. And in that position, I want you to take in just two deep breaths from this position where you're slouched. Ready? One more. Okay, that was the first one. So now the next one, what I want you to do is I want you to stay upright as you can, spine straight, erect, in an alert position. And now what I want you to do is take a deep breath. Okay? What did you notice? Think about it. What did you notice was the difference between both times, whether you were slouched or whether you were upright? Now, hopefully what you noticed was when you were more upright, you breathe better. It was much easier for you to take in the breath. The first one, in a slouch position, your breath was more shallow, and then you almost had to force out the air. So again, you're not taking in enough, nor are you getting out enough. So you have to breathe quicker when you're in a constant, slouch position. But when you are upright with correct posture, you notice if you're anything like me, you were able to take in more air, and then you allowed the exhale to happen more naturally, so it didn't feel like you were just forcing everything out, right? So that's the biggest thing that I wanted you to notice about this. Oxygen is the very first nutrient that your body takes in, and you have to you have to make sure that you're breathing properly first, so that you can maximize everything else down the chain, right? So why do you need to breathe? Why is that an important thing? Why is that nutrient so important to you? It's simple. The 3 reasons why you need it. 1, energy. You cannot use energy from the food that you eat. You can't get any energy from it without oxygen. You need oxygen. 2, you need oxygen to burn fat, which in essence, if you're trying to tap into the fat on your body uses oxygen as part of the chemical process to break it down, right? So you can use it. The next one is inflammation. A lot of you guys have heard of inflammation, but just think of it's like your body's response to damage, and it's like swelling, right? So like when you roll your ankle or you get an injury, you notice it swells up, right? Or if you get like bitten somewhere, you notice it swells up a little bit. That's inflammation. And that again happens on a cellular level throughout your body, which again, a lot of times when you look at a lot of people, a lot of you guys who are struggling to lose weight, it's not even just that it's fat you're trying to get rid of. A lot of times your body is very inflamed. So that's where you have more of a swollen look, and it's not just like, oh, this is just a whole bunch of fat. It's inflammation, right? And without oxygen, your body starts to become a lot more inflamed. In the absence of oxygen, your body becomes more inflamed. In the presence of oxygen, the inflammation goes down. So it makes you healthier just from breathing. Your body needs it, so it doesn't feel like it's under attack. And when you're more inflamed, it's like you're in a state of stress, chronic stress. So again, the reason why we breathe, to produce energy, to break down fat, and to lower inflammation. Your body needs oxygen for that purpose. So going into the whole, let's look at the inflammatory cycle, because I want to touch on this a little bit more, right? When you when you're not breathing well and your fitness levels are low, you move into the stage where your cells are chronically under-oxygenated. So you're not getting enough oxygen into your cells. Think about it. If you can't breathe well and you can't take a full breath, then it means the amount of oxygen you're able to deliver to the trillions of cells in your body is going to be limited, right? So when you breathe fuller, you're able to deliver more oxygen to all the other cells, so that way they can perform the way they're supposed to, right? So then once your cells are chronically under oxygenated, then what happens is your body starts to freak out. Your body starts to sound the alarm. So your body's like, oh crap, what's going on? And that's when your body starts to produce these inflammatory proteins. Well, it's really your body's already producing them, but without oxygen, they start to proliferate, and then they start to spread from one cell to another cell, and now your whole body starts to panic. So think of it like this. Remember how I said the cells are like little people? Think of it like if you're in an environment, think about being in a crowded environment, and all of a sudden, somebody starts to run. Naturally, everybody else is gonna and they're gonna freak out a little bit, and they'll start to do the same thing, right? That's the same thing. So that's what's happening when one cell starts to freak out. It triggers the other ones. It starts to communicate to the other ones, and they respond. So now that inflammation starts to spread throughout your body. And once your body starts to become more inflamed, your cells start to become inflamed, fat burning stops. Your body starts to become more insulin resistant, right? When you become more insulin resistant, insulin is what tells the cells to open up and absorb all the minerals, the macronutrients, the food that you're eating. But when you have insulin resistance, they can't. So what happens, all that excess goes into the fat cells, and the fat cells start to swell simply because your body's insulin resistant. So all the other cells are not accepting anything because your body's in a state of stress. So in a state of stress, it doesn't prioritize feeding, it prioritizes the fight or flight cycle. So then once all this starts to happen, then we go into your energy starts to drop. And when your energy drops, your motivation fades. And when your motivation fades, then your movement starts to decrease. And since you're not moving well, then your fitness level drops, your breathing is poor, and you just continue the cycle all over again, right? So how do we interfere with this? It's simple. Exercise, eat real food, breathe better, right? So we talking about breathing and the importance of breathing. Next, we're going to go into hydration, right? So when we're talking about hydration, this is what I want you to think about in regards to water. Water is the air that your cells breathe. So again, we're still talking about the cells. And the reason why we're still talking about the cells is because everything that you're doing, everything you're eating, right? It's affecting the cells. It's not affecting anything else. It's affecting the cells. So that's why your body breaks the food down into microscopic parts so the cells that are microscopic can now interface with the food. It's like a cell that is like microscopic, almost at quantum level, and you're bringing a big burger or, I don't know, a steak, and your body has to break that down first so the cells can actually do something with it. So in that process, the cells themselves, think of them as these big balls, these big globules of water, right? And they're full of water, and then they're also suspended in water. So they move around, they swim around the water like fish, right? But then they're also full of water themselves. So they're bags of water in water. And the same way, like I'm in this room right now, and wherever you are, you're in this, wherever you are, and you're breathing in air. If we were cells, that air would be water that we're in. See, that's where the cell extracts all its nutrition from. It extracts its nutrition from the water. That's why it's in that environment. So that is the reason why it's very important for you to be hydrated. Because one, for a lot of you guys who maybe used one of those scales, the InBody or whatever other scale that you use it tells you your weight, your body fat, muscle mass, but also, it talks about intracellular water and extracellular water. So intracellular water is the water on the inside of the cells. And then extracellular water is the water on the outside of your cells. So understanding that is very important, because if there's not enough water inside your body, then you would obviously be dehydrated. But if there's too much water inside your body, that's a sign of inflammation. If it's happening over a long period of time, it lets you know that your body is inflamed. So start paying attention to that. That's why it's another metric to pay attention to, that your hydration levels tend to be level over a period of time. But if you notice that they're chronically either below where they should be or above where they should be, then it lets you know that you're either chronically hydrated or you're chronically overhydrated, which typically you're inflamed, right? So again, the core thing I want you to grab from this is, it is from the water that the cells are able to extract the minerals and the nutrients that they need, right? So when it comes to nutrients, we're going to talk about we're first going to speak of the macronutrients. Now, macronutrients are, in essence, the proteins, the carbs, and the fat. The ones you hear about every day. What are my macros? That's macronutrients: proteins, carbs, fats, right? And let's talk about what they actually are. And I think once you understand what they are, then you will be better equipped to, again, know what you need and why you need them. And again, you will make better decisions. So the very first one we're going to talk about is the one you hear about the most: protein, right? And the thing about protein is, I feel like most people don't actually know what a protein is. And that's because nobody ever talks about what a protein is. Nobody in the fitness industry, nobody in the health industry ever actually talk about what protein is. And I want you to think about protein as just the gadgets and the tools that your body makes, that the cells make. Every cell makes different proteins. The proteins that a muscle cell makes is not the same proteins that a nerve cell makes, or that a liver cell makes, or a melanocyte makes. Each cell makes different stuff. And the reason why I use this image right here to, you have a laptop, a phone, a chair, shoes, a pen, a hammer, a car, and these are just random things that we as human beings make. These are different inventions, tools that we use to do things. That's what the cells do. They make proteins so that they can build and create things. That's all that's happening inside your body. It's like the cells are literally living like us. They're just like us. They have stuff they do every day. They take certain resources. That's why when your body needs different micronutrients. So once, like a muscle cell needs more magnesium, a sperm cell needs more zinc. You know, say an ovary, which is the woman's sex cell, it needs more iron. You see what I'm saying? And they all use those minerals to make different things. And those different things that they make are called proteins. So proteins are not just muscle, muscle, muscle. Your muscles are just made up of proteins made by your muscle cells. But your body doesn't just need protein for muscles. It needs protein for everything. Even just producing energy, it needs proteins for that. So think of proteins as just the gadgets that your body makes. So what your body does, interestingly enough, and this is an interesting fact, it's not that your body needs protein. Your body needs what they call amino acids. And it takes those amino acids and builds its own proteins. So when you eat meat or fish or chicken, what happens is your body actually breaks all of that down. Remember I said your body has to break the food down. Your body's going to break those meats down all the way until they're amino acids, because that's how when they get to a microscopic level, they now become amino acids. And then your body takes those amino acids and it ferries them to the different cells in the body, and each body will now take those amino acids, each cell, and it uses it to make its own proteins, different kinds of proteins, and it will just start producing its own from what you give it. So you're always breaking down meats into amino acids. So when you drink a protein shake, your body's going to break the protein shake down into amino acids before it can use it. Anything to do with protein that you need to consume in your food, your body's breaking it down and then it's going to use it. So that's why, and here's an interesting thing, you can find amino acids in anything, right? Not just in animal products, but also in plants. And you eat a piece of fruit, there's amino acids in it. Amino acids are what's the proteins that the plant made is what's responsible for the structure of that food. The reason why you can hold on to an apple and it has its own structure is because of the proteins in it. And when your body eats that apple, you will break that apple down and you will get some amino acids out of it. And then those amino acids, your body takes them and uses them to create proteins, And then those proteins, I mean, those proteins serve whatever function your body needs at the time, right? And we can go deeper into that, but I just want you to understand that piece, right? Now, from proteins, we're going to move to carbs, right? And I want you to think of carbs like the firewood. They are what you use to produce, that your body uses to convert into energy. In essence, carbs, your body likes to burn sugar. So whenever you're feeding your body carbs, your body's breaking them down into sugar, which is glucose, to use for fuel. Now, we eat too much of these. That's the problem that we're facing, is we're consuming too much carbs, too many carbohydrates. And what's happening is we're not burning it. So we're eating more than our body actually needs. And when there's too much of it, this is what gets converted into fat, right? So think of carbs as just like firewood that combusts in the presence of oxygen to produce energy. But in reality, sugar, you have a finite amount, and really it's what your body uses in the absence of oxygen, but that's a different story. So the next one is fats. And I want you to think of fat as like crude oil, the way um, when you dig crude oil out from the earth, it still has to go through a process of refining, which takes a while before you can actually use it for what you want to use it for. So fat is just like that, where it's a slower burning fuel source that your body needs and uses, but it takes time before it's actually ready to be used. So that is what fats are. It's just like crude oil. And not just can it be used for fuel, but it's also, when you combine it with proteins, you're also creating, things like hormones or neurotransmitters. That's when you start combining fat and protein together. So it also helps with structure. Also, the cells in your body, when I say your body, the cells in your body are these big balls of water. What separates the water in the cells from the water on the outside is fat. So every cell is coated with fat. Think of the same way. What do we do? Most of us do is we use lotion on our skin, or body butters, which are really just oils. We rub oils on our body to hold in that moisture, right? That's what's happening with the cells. They're these big bags of oil, but the oil is just the outer layer, and the inside of them is water, and then it's like water on the inside, and then on the outside coating the water is oil, and then on the outside of the oil is more water, right? Oil and water doesn't mix. So that's one of the reasons why your body needs fat. You have to get fat into your system, right? So the next part, and this is what I really want you to think about when it comes to food. Something that helps me, again, when it comes to my decision making. I look at natural food, real food, as information. That's what we need from it. So think of like when you eat an apple, it's like your cells are reading a book, right? Your cells are reading a book. And think of a book. You have a book. A book is made up of chapters, which is also made up of paragraphs. And a paragraph is made up of sentences. And the sentences are made up of words. And words are made up of letters, right? And it's once you're breaking things down to this level so you can understand them. I can't just look at a book and know everything inside it. I have to go through the process of processing it, of digesting the information. Well, the same thing is with food. And as I mentioned earlier, an apple is just an apple until I process it, until I digest it, and my body breaks it down to macronutrients, the proteins, the carbs, the fats, and then it also breaks it down to micronutrients, and that's when we start talking about copper, zinc, magnesium, calcium, iron. That's when you start getting those micronutrients from the food, and then those micronutrients are broken down into, some of them are in the form of molecules, and then they're broken down to atoms, and you start going deeper and deeper until you get to a point where your cells can start using that information. But everything has to be broken down, it has to be processed. And that's, I liken that to a language. Like your body is speaking a language, and this is how it connects to Mother Nature. It's getting the information it needs from Mother Nature to function the way it's supposed to function. Now, that's the difference between natural and real food versus processed food, in the sense that processed food is like your body, you're giving it a different language. See, you might eat that donut or that cookie, or that piece of cake or whatever it is that's your processed food of choice. But the issue now becomes when it gets broken down to the cellular level, it's rejected there. That's where it's rejected. You see what I'm saying? So it's like when the information that you're feeding it, it's like the cells don't understand that language. They don't understand, they can't read it because it's processed, it's man-made, it's gone through a whole bunch of processing that it cannot understand or comprehend what you're giving it. So I liken food to like books. The way I read a book to understand the information and take that information to now inform how I move. The same thing with the cells. They're taking that information from the food, and then now they know how they should move or function or operate. So this is where we're going to a little bit about your supplementation. And when it comes to supplementation, and I use some Lifetime products here, but these are really the ones that I use. And one of the number one ones that I always recommend is a multivitamin above everything, because with the multivitamin, you're plugging in the gaps that you're not getting from your diet. And that's really a big contributor to why the body becomes inflamed, is because the natural processes or the metabolic processes that go on your body, they need these little micronutrients. Each cell needs these micronutrients and different ones. And when they're not getting it, again, the cells can't function. And it's like your diet is incomplete because we eat for minerals. We overemphasize calories. We overemphasize, am I getting in enough calories? Am I eating too much calories? Personally, I would really recommend, don't worry so much about the calories and focus on whether your food is nutritious. That's the most important piece. Is your food nutritious? And if your body is getting in the nutrients it needs, then that's when you will start to see a major shift in how it begins to operate. And it will take time, but ultimately, once it's getting that on a regular basis, then it's going to start to function the way it's supposed to. The next one I recommend is, it's called Glow. It's omega-3 fish oil. And the reason why, what this helps you with is it helps with that inflammatory process I was talking about. It helps you to lower inflammation. That's what omega-3 is. So when you hear omega-3 fish oil, you've heard of omega-6 and omega-9. Those ones typically promote inflammation. Omega-3 is the one that lowers inflammation. So again, we don't want inflammation to take place because that's what causes your body to hold on. It becomes the weight that is harder to lose when your body's inflamed. Then the next one is Rally, which is just aminos. So again, going back to what I was talking about, amino acids. Amino acids are what your body really needs when you need protein. Anything that is a protein, whether it's a protein powder, a protein shake, a steak, meat, your body breaks it down into amino acids before it can use it. And what I like about taking the supplement amino acids or an amino complex is because I don't have to go through that whole digestive process. I'm just giving my body amino acids and it gets to the cells much quicker. And then I don't even have to consume so much meat or whatever my protein source is before I get the benefit of the amount of aminos that are in my body. The next one is Hydrate, and this is what's the word I'm looking for? It is an electrolyte supplement. And the reason why I like this for me personally is it has helped me take in more water. I wasn't doing well in regards to my consumption of water every day. So what I did was I started to take the hydrate supplement, and I honestly say that it has made me drink more water. It's gotten me more consistent, and I like the taste. It comes in different flavors, and I just anytime I feel thirsty, I'm so much more aware of my thirst now because of the hydrate. So even like right now, I'm starting to feel a little thirsty just thinking about it. And that's a good sign. It helps me get water, and it helps me keep water inside the cells. That's the key thing as well. It keeps water inside the cells, which is where you want a lot of the water. Think about, for those of you guys who do drink a lot of water just normally without any electrolytes, notice how often you're going to the bathroom. It's because a lot of that water isn't getting into the cells because it's been stripped of a lot of the electrolytes. So you're just peeing it out because there's only so much your body's going to hold on to in the extracellular before it just, okay, I got to go to the bathroom. That's why you're going to the bathroom a lot of times, because there's not enough electrolytes. Then we have the next supplement, which is Dream, and it's called it is a magnesium supplement. And what one of the things that I like about this, it doesn't make you sleepy, but it makes the sleep deeper. That's what I really like and appreciate about this supplement, is it makes the sleep deeper. And that's um, when you're able to sleep deeper, that's when your body responds to everything that you've done throughout the day, your workouts, your diet, because the building process, the recovery process takes place when you sleep. So the deeper the sleep you get, the stronger your recovery. Think about it. Why do babies sleep all day? Babies sleep all day because they're growing. So they need to be in a state of recovery so that, or we can call it a parasympathetic state, so that their body can constantly be in grow mode. So these are supplements that I would recommend. So then we go into meal timing. Now, when it comes to meal timing, this is just a sample. In the morning, have something high protein, so that way it keeps your blood sugar level stable. And then right before you work out, if you're working out in the morning, try and get in some moderate carbs and protein. So that could even be, you can combine this together and just make sure, because if you work out early in the morning, you want to have something in your system. I would typically recommend a steak. I'm sorry, not a steak, a shake. Um, Pre-workout, but then also post-workout, protein and carbs again. And one of the reasons why I would recommend this is simply because that's when your body needs it the most. You just went through the process of really doing a strong workout, so you're breaking it down. So around your workout time, pre and post, that's when you want to get your carbs in. And then the rest of the day is, when you do eat, you want to just eliminate the carbs, have more lean protein and vegetables. But again, this all depends on, what your goal is, right? So the next page, I kind of have a sample eating strategy, right? So on a training day, and when I say a training day, I'm talking about when you're doing intense workout, strength training workout, anything that, pushes you to where you could be sore the next day. That's the same day that you want to make sure you're getting in more carbohydrates. So you can see like the difference in these meals, where you're getting vegetables, you're getting your meats, but then you also have, and typically your fats will probably be the oil, um, either coming from the chicken or that you were used to cook the meal. And then rice is something that could be as a carb because your body needs it on that day. But let's say, again, your goal is you're trying to lose body fat. On the days where you don't work out, maybe you just do cardio or something light that day, that's when you would eliminate the extra carbs because your body doesn't need the extra calories. And then you're getting in vegetables, which are carbohydrates, and a protein. And then there's going to be some fat on it as well. And that's pretty much it. Now, if your goal is strictly weight loss and you're not working out too intensely, then this would be how I would recommend your plate will look all the time, where you would eliminate certain carbs. But if you're exercising, you want to make sure that you're getting some carbs in around your exercise time on the days that you are exercising. So it's not like eliminate all carbs altogether, but this is just kind of a sample strategy. More carbs on training days, less carbs on non-training days, right? So now I wanted to talk about the food industry, right? Because the reason why I believe it's important to touch on this is because you are fighting a war. A lot of people don't understand that uh, it's not really your fault why you struggle, contrary to what everybody says. You can take accountability, you can take responsibility for it, but I want you to understand that you're resisting or interacting with a system that is structured around trying to trigger you into eating the foods that are not good for you just to make a profit. And these people spend millions and millions and billions of dollars to trigger you emotionally to eat these things. They studied how your mind works, they've studied how your hormones work, they study your emotions, and they know how to attack you. So a lot of the times when you're succumbing to these foods and you find yourself eating this food that you know you shouldn't be eating, but damn, here you go again, and you start beating yourself up, stop beating yourself up. You don't live in an environment that promotes healthy eating. You don't live in an environment where you can walk outside and you see fruit trees everywhere and you can just pick a piece of fruit off the tree and just eat it. You don't live in that environment. You live in an environment where you step outside your house and there's a gas station with a whole bunch of junk food in it, and you look over here and there's fast food. You're at home watching television, and all of a sudden this commercial for this burger that's been perfectly created in slow motion in front of your face, or this soda that's what's constantly being shoved in your face. So it's no wonder you struggle. So the reason I believe it's important to talk about this is so that you don't beat yourself up. You can't. You can't. You have to understand the environment you're in and plan accordingly, because that's ultimately what's going to help you going forward. Then I want to move and talk a lot about your mindset, right? Because this is what's going to help you in the war zone that you're in. It's all about your mindset. Your mindset is going to carry you through to what you're doing. So this is the one thing I want you to get from this, right? Is eat what you like. If you don't like it, you're not going to eat it. I don't care how healthy the plate looks. If you don't like it, you're not going to eat it. And the second thing is make it easy for yourself and make it convenient. So this is an exaggeration of what my fridge looks like, honestly, because my fridge, I just have fruits and vegetables in it and meats because that's what I eat. And the junk food, I don't keep it around because if it's around, it's convenient. And if it's convenient, I'm going to eat it. But when I look at this is what I keep around. So now it's convenient. And because it's convenient, it's easy. And I only keep the ones that I like, right? The person who eats well doesn't fight to do it. I eat well and I don't fight to do it. It is not a struggle for me to eat well because I keep healthy food around me. This is what my fridge looks like. Man, if things go south and all of a sudden the grocery store shut down today, I'm going to be screwed because this is what I rely on, and these things will perish really quickly. So I want you to keep that in mind when you think about yourselves, is keep these foods around you. It's going to make it convenient for you to eat it. Point blank, period. Right? So just going through everything we've covered, just to the nutrition piece, to where we are now, is We spoke about the body, and the body is made up of cells. And these cells are like little people inside your body. And there are different kinds of cells which make up different kinds of groups and cultures. And they all come together like a little civilization. Like you are a civilization of cells, all functioning at the highest level. I think honestly, if we as people modeled our society, how the cells interact with each other, we would elevate ourselves to another level. Then we talked about the nutrients that the cells need. The very first one is oxygen. And why do you need that? You need oxygen to produce energy, to burn fat, and to reduce inflammation, right? That's what you need it for. Then we talked about water, and water is the air that the cells breathe. You have water on the inside of the cells, you have water on the outside of the cells. You need that. And another reason too is it slows the aging process, because part of the aging process is dehydration. Your body isn't able to hold on to as much water. So consuming foods that have water in them is going to be much more beneficial for your body, because it comes in a state that the water should be inside your body. Then we talked about the macronutrients, which are your proteins, your carbs, and your fat. Protein, again, are like the tools that your body needs, that your body produces, that your body makes when you eat protein, break it down to amino acids, and then your body consumes those amino acids, your cells consume those amino acids and uses them to make proteins, which are the gadgets, the tools, the little pieces of organic cellular technology. Then we have the carbs, which are like firewood, which are, you use them for fuel. That's what carbs are for. And then when we have an excess of carbs and we don't burn all of it and use all that fuel, your body stores it. Then we have fat, which is a slower burning fuel that needs to go through more processing before it can be used. And you use it for fuel, and you also use it for in conjunction with proteins for different molecules like hormones and neurotransmitters and things like that. Then you have the micronutrients, which are when you break all your food down, it's like they turn into that little pieces of information that help the cells function the way they are supposed to. And each cells need different micronutrients. Muscles need more magnesium, bones need more calcium, your melanocytes need more copper, when you're not getting enough, when you're not eating more quality foods, we talked about supplements and making sure that you're filling the gaps and not just relying on, the food that you're eating, especially when you're not accustomed to eating healthy. You want to make sure that you're getting certain supplements to fill in the gaps. So it's just adding something, but it should never take the place of eating real food. Then we talked about the food industry and just understanding that you're battling an industry that is designed to trap you, right? So be gentle with yourself. Don't be so harsh on yourself and going to the whole self-blame and being so critical. Just understand that you're in war or you're in a fight. It's a battle, and it's not going to be a flawless victory. You're going to get some hits in, and they're going to get some hits in too. So just understand that that's what's going on, but just keep doing what you need to do to win that fight. And the next thing was your mindset. Find food that you love and make it convenient for yourself. Because if it's not convenient, you're going to struggle. If you don't love it, you're going to struggle. All right? So with all that being said, I wanted to also introduce you to our metabolic program, right? And one of the things that we do now at Lifetime, well, we've been doing it before, but we got away from it after the pandemic. The company just stopped really pushing it, and we also started looking for different technologies that made it more effective of a test. But we started talking about the metabolic assessment. And what we have, for those of you guys who aren't aware of the metabolic assessment, is we have two metabolic assessments. We have the resting metabolic assessment and the active metabolic assessment. The resting, it literally tells you with the most amount of accuracy what your daily caloric need is. So in essence, how many calories does your body burn at rest daily? And it does that from measuring your breathing, right? And through your breathing, it's able to tell you based on the exchange of when you breathe in you breathe in oxygen and then you breathe out carbon dioxide. And just based on that ratio, it will be able to tell this is how many calories you need every day. So now you know how much food you should be eating every day. So this is an example. Like this is, one of mine. This, based on the test, it tells me this is my resting, 2,035 calories a day, right? Just if I was to wake up and just lay in bed all day, this is what I would need to keep my body functioning and to feed all my cells. I need this many calories. Then when you now factor in activity, like coming to work, working out, things like that, just being active throughout the day, my body needs an extra 611 calories, right? Before it starts to tap into my body's fat. So if I'm trying to build muscle, I want to make sure that I'm eating so if you add the 611 extra calories to the 2035, then it's going to be, this is how much my body needs every day. So if I'm trying to build muscle, I want to eat at this or more. If I'm trying to lose muscle, I want to be between the 2646 and the 2035. I want to lose, but I don't want to go below this. This will let me know when I'm under eating, right? So this is what that test lets you know. It lets you know, in essence, how many calories your body needs on the daily, so you now know how much you should be eating, and you now know whether you're eating enough or you're not eating, whether you're eating too much or you're not eating enough. Okay, so it also lets us know when you're just sitting there doing nothing, does your body burn fat or does your body like to burn carbs, right? So right here, believe it or not, my body is a carb burner. Just not doing anything, my body burns carbs, which is typically one of the reasons why I can get away with eating a lot of carbs, right? And 16% fat. So it's not that my body is not great at burning fat, it's just not preferred. My body likes to burn carbs, which is why I have what you would call a fast metabolism, but it's just saying that my body burns through its carbs quickly. And when it burns through its carbs quickly, then it starts tapping into the fat. So for a lot of people, you might have a different makeup, and this just gives us a little bit more information. Then we move into the active metabolic assessment. Now, what this does, it lets us know, for those of you guys who do cardio, and maybe for those of you guys who take classes and they talk about zone 1, zone 2, this test actually lets us know what those are for you. So in essence, what it's going to do here is it's going to let us know, one, how many calories do you burn if, say, you spent an hour at each, at a certain intensity, right? And at certain intensity, that's what the zones are. So you can see they're heart rate zones. And at a certain intensity, my heart rate is going to be between here and here. And what this test lets me see, again, I got to get in the habit of not pointing with my fingers. But anyway, so again, zone 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And each one is a heart rate zone, right? And based on the level of intensity of the workout that I'm doing, it will let me know what zone I'm in. And depending on what I want to burn or what my structured workout is for the day, this test lets me know how much fat I will burn if I stay in this intensity. So depending on what I'm trying to do will determine what my cardio workout is going to be. So when you come in and you want to do cardio, this will actually let you know what speed you should be in, what level on the treadmill you should be at to make sure that you're burning fat. Because a lot of times you might get into a cardio and you start doing it at an intensity that your heart rate goes up too high and you're burning very little fat. So this shaded area right here, this is how much fat I would burn if I spent an hour at a zone 3, right? Or if I spend an hour at a zone 2, or if I spend an hour at a zone 1. Once I get into zone 4 and zone 5, there's no fat being burned, right? So this test actually lets you know what intensity it should be in. Then it also lets us know just how many calories from fat you have in your body overall. And this is something you get to track over time. So like you can see how many calories you have from fat and you're able to keep track of it as time goes. And you're able to see, are you reducing the amount of fat? You actually are able to put a number to it instead of just going off of how many pounds. You can actually just go and say, oh, this is how much fat I have in my body if I measured it in calories. And you can start to see, okay, I have less fat on my body just based on looking at that. Um, then it also lets us know what your VO2 max is. And this lets us know how well your body uses oxygen. Remember, your body needs oxygen to produce energy, burn fat, and lower inflammation. So when you breathe, depending on what your VO2 max is, it lets us know how efficient you are with breathing, right? Because if you're great, that means you're going to burn a lot more. You're much more efficient with oxygen, so your body's going to have lower inflammation. Your body's going to burn more fat. And your body's going to produce more energy, right? Your VO2 max tells us what that is, and it also it's a sign of longevity because the higher this number is, the older you are. It's a sign that you're going to, in essence, live longer versus people who their VO2 max is lower. It means they're spending more time producing less energy. They're able to utilize less fat, and then they have more inflammation. That's that's not good for longevity. All right, and then the last piece that this is going to give us is again this test will actually tell you, okay, if you want to spend time in, say, you're doing a zone 2 workout, so your heart rate needs to be between here, it will actually tell you what intensity that is on the treadmill. So you need to spend more time at a 5.4 mile per hour speed at a 1% incline on a treadmill, and that will keep you at zone 2. So now you know exactly what speed you need to do, whether you're doing the cardio workout by yourself or you're in one of the classes that tell you go to a zone 1, go to a zone 2, you know exactly what that is and you're not guessing. Okay, so that's our metabolic assessment. So it's something that we're offering now. Again, I'm the metabolic specialist, so I'm actually in charge of this program at Lake Houston. So if this interests you guys in any way, let me know, reach out to me, and I'll definitely help you get started with that. There is a cost to it. It's $159 per test, $159. So if you want to do the active by itself, you can do it's a $159. If you want to do the metabolic by itself, it's $159. If you want to do both, it's $159 and $159 for each. So, but that's going to be that on the metabolic test. So that is it for the presentation. This is actually my second time going through it. Never done that before, but it was an interesting experience. I think I want to do more of these digital PowerPoint presentations. I kind of liked it. But anyway, after out of all of this that we went over, what I want you guys to take from this, again, is just eat real food. That's it. Eat real food. And this is just a message to those of you guys in the group right now, in the WhatsApp group. I I'm loving what I'm seeing from all the food that you're posting because in essence that's all you guys are doing. That's all I've seen from you is you're eating real food. I know some of you guys have had, some I've seen some cream, no, I've seen some cottage cheese, I've seen some yogurt, and I think somebody did have a wrap. Those are the those are processed foods, right? And we can get away with it in smaller amounts, but the bulk, I would say 90-95% of your diet should all be real food. And if you can do that, starting off with just 60 days, but continuing, you will see a tremendous result from it. But other than that, guys, thank you for if you sat through all of this. I appreciate you. I did this for you. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out, and I will um, be more than happy to answer them. But it's been awesome. It's been an honor. putting this together for you guys. I will be making more because I actually enjoy doing it. So I will be making more. I think I'll probably do spend a little bit more time maybe breaking down the macros, or maybe even talking a lot more about anatomy and physiology, or even talking about um, what was the last piece we just talked on? This is going to be a lot. I have a lot, and this just going through this, I just saw a lot of opportunity, a lot of areas where I feel like you will benefit greatly from learning more on. So, but I'm just going to end it there. This I still got to make dinner, and it's pretty late right now. But either way, thank you guys. I will see you guys next time.